Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorials. This is Kyra and today is day 3, Wednesday, of our week-long event that we're having, the Thanks a Million event, which is an event we're throwing to kind of say thank you to our community for helping us reach 1 million sales in our Etsy shop. It's really huge. We're really excited, so we wanted to celebrate with everyone by having deals every day of the week in our shop, as well as giving away freebies with daily videos that we'll be putting up on the channel every day this week. So if you haven't seen it already, on Monday we made a video kind of talking about all of the details for the sale, as well as giving away an entire journal kit, the Keepsakes journal kit. So if you haven't already, make sure to go download that because you'll be needing it for today's tutorial. Also, we're going to be giving away an add-on kit every day this week to somebody who comments under our YouTube video. So make sure to leave a comment if you want to win an add-on kit, telling us that's what you want to win. And then we're also going to be giving away the journal I'm making in today's tutorial to one grand prize winner. So don't forget to leave your comments. All right, without much further ado, let's jump on into today's video. So today's video is going to deal with papers and pages. So obviously I went ahead and printed all of the pages from the Keepsakes journal kit, that free journal kit that we gave away on Monday. So just regular paper here. I ran it through my printer and then flipped it over and ran it through again, printing on the back. So I've got lots of different pages and papers, really pretty patterns in this kit. And I did print quite a few blank and lined pages. Since I'm giving this journal away, I wanted to make sure that there was writing space in the journal for whoever gets it. So now alongside these pages, which there's quite a few already, I didn't print anything twice, I just printed on the back of them. So there's a good stack of papers in that Keepsakes kit. However, today's freebie is going to include some extra papers that you can add into your signatures. So these are just some extra different patterns that aren't in the original kit. They are meant to match the Keepsakes journal kit though, so you know, it's kind of similar patterns and colors and things like that that just aren't in the original kit. So these papers will be available down in the description box to download, along with all the other freebies you can see in all of our description box for the week's videos. All right, so as you can see here, once I've added both of those papers all together, you got a really good stack of papers for your journal. This is not a small amount of papers. There's plenty of pages here to make a full journal. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the edges. Since my printer does not print borderless, I'm gonna go chop these off and then come right back. All right, so once that is done, I've got this Tim Holtz paper shredder that I'm going to be using to shred the edges of my pages. But if you don't have one of those, you can use scissors to get the same effect, and I'll kind of show you that. The reason I like the Tim Holtz one is just because it's a little bit safer to get that kind of roughed up edge to my papers, because of the guard that is on it. And we will have links to it down in the description box in our Amazon shop. All of our tools and supplies are going to be linked there. So if you're looking for something, you should be able to find it. But if you don't have this tool, you can use scissors to rough up the edge as well. Just be careful of the blade. You don't want to accidentally cut yourself. All right, and once that's done, you should have a decent amount of texture on the edge of your pages. But to add a little bit more texture to our signatures, I'm going to be taking some coffee dyed pages that I have. Now, I bought these on Etsy, but you can make them yourself pretty easily. And we also have some coffee dyed pages in our shop if you just want to print them out and use those instead. Because I cut the edges off of my papers, these are a little bit larger, so they kind of add a little bit of variation to the size of my pages, and they also kind of have a little bit of like a wrinkle to them. So it's just another way to kind of add some texture and some variation to your signatures. All right, and speaking of adding things to our signatures, I do have some coffee dyed lace doilies that I made. I just soaked them in coffee for, a couple of minutes and then threw them in an oven at 200 degrees for about 5 to 10 minutes, keeping an eye on them until they were dry. And then I'm going to be flicking a little bit of this like burgundy colored acrylic paint that I have mixed with water. So it's about a 2-to-1 ratio for paint to water. And I'm only doing it on a couple of the lace doilies just to kind of add a little pop of color and a little bit more distressing to them that kind of I felt matched the kit and looked nice. And while I set those aside to dry, I am going to go in with a little bit of distress ink here in the color Vintage Photo. And I'm just taking it around the edges of some of my pages here, ones that I felt like maybe looked, I don't know, a little too blank, a little too white maybe, and I'm just going to kind of distress them a little bit more and give them some color. This is not necessary, but if you have the time and want to do it, you can. And after this, we're going to want to actually split the entire stack into our signatures. So what you want to do is count up all of your pages. I had 32, and you want to divide them by the number of signatures you want. So I'm doing 4 signatures for today's video. So that gives me 8 pages per signature. So I'm going to count out 8 pages here, and then use those to form a stack. And I'm going to kind of shuffle my papers and then just fold the entire stack in half. All right, and make sure that you kind of get things centered nicely when you fold them. Otherwise you might run into some problems later. I did, so I will talk about that when that happens, but just be careful that when you fold these that you fold them nicely. All right. So that's going to give you your first signature. And if you're new to journal making, a signature is just a stack of papers. That's all that is. So we're going to go ahead here and create 4 stacks to make our 4 signatures. All right, so once your signatures are made and your lace doilies are now dry, we can go ahead and wrap some of those doilies or like fold them into our signatures. So what you're going to do is you're going to wrap them around a page like this, and that's going to kind of hold them in place. Now, you don't want to wrap them around the outside of your signature just because sometimes they'll shuffle around. It's kind of hard to deal with. So what I typically do is find an inside panel to wrap them around, and then the pressure from the other pages kind of hold them in place. So just like this. So folding them inside of the signature makes them a little bit easier to work with. And something else you can do to add texture really quickly to a signature is to use paper punches to kind of punch the edge of the page and give it kind of like a cute trim looking edge. We bought our punches, on Amazon and have them linked in our shop down below. So if you don't have these, it's not a big deal. You can also tear the edges of your papers by hand, and that can give you a sort of similar look where we're just trying to create some more texture and layering to our signatures so that they look nice and varied and we can see all the different papers and things like that. So that's what I did for mine. And now we can get ready to put them into our journal. So I'm going to be using the brad binding method, which is a method I created about a year and a half ago, I believe. And so for this method, you will need brads. You can use any ones you have. I would suggest longer brads since the cover is kind of thick and 8-page signatures are also kind of thick. So longer brads would work better for this. And you're going to need 8 in total for 4 signatures. Now, to help us figure out where we want to place the holes for our signatures, I am going to be using our Freebie hidden spine templates. You can get these for free in our Facebook group, or you can buy them in our Etsy shop. And they come in 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 and 3 inches, I believe. And we're just using them as a guide. Usually these are made for pamphlet stitches, but we're just using them as a guide to help us make sure everything is straight. But my spine ended up actually being about 2.5 inches, and we didn't have one for that. So knowing I wanted a 2.5 inch spine with 4 holes in it for 4 signatures, I went ahead and created a different template. So we're giving this away as our second freebie today, and you can find that linked down in the description box below if you want to snag that. All right, so I'm going to place the spine template on top of my spine here, and I'm going to clip it in place using some BULLDOG clips. Make sure to get this as straight as you can. Mine ended up being a little bit crooked. I thought I had it straight. Turns out I did not. So make sure to double check here and get everything straight. Now, once we have that secured, we're going to be punching some holes. Luckily, our spine is still just made of the cereal box material, not the chipboard, so it's really easy to punch through. I'm going to be using an awl from the bookbinding kit linked in our Amazon shop, but you can use a needle or anything you have that's sharp enough to poke through thin cardboard. So what we're going to do is find those marked holes, and we're going to just poke from the front to the inside, or I guess the outside to the inside like this. Be mindful that if you did add the lace edge in Tuesday's video when I showed how to make this cover here. You might need to trim some of that fabric away if it's covering up where you want to punch the hole through. That could make things a little bit difficult. So just trim that up if it's too long. And then I'm just going to continue to create holes all along these top line of holes here and the bottom, and not in the center. We don't need any holes in the center of our cover because that's going to ruin that lace window that we made. All right, and once all of the holes are punched, go ahead and remove that template, and then we're going to take our signatures, and it helps to have something to hold these open while you're working. So I'm going to use BULLDOG clips. Feel free to use paper clips or clothespins or whatever you have on hand. And then of course we're going to be needing those brads I mentioned earlier. And we're also going to need this piece from the Hidden Spine template printout that I mentioned earlier. So grab that, and we're going to need the awl or needle or whatever you used to poke holes earlier. So to start, grab your first signature, and you're going to want to open it up to the center. And this is a good time to try to make sure that all of your pages are folded in the middle and are aligned properly. So slide pages around until you're happy with it. And then we're going to add in our clips to help hold the pages in place so that they don't move around. And I also like to go through and make sure that none of my pages are upside down. I have done that before. So if anything's upside down, fix it now before it goes into the journal. And then we're going to clip in this little template piece here, just like this, aligning it with the top and bottom of our page. And again, we're going to be poking out holes here. We're going to be poking out the top hole and the bottom hole and leaving the center one untouched. We don't want to use this at all. Okay, so go ahead and make your little holes here, and you want to try to make sure that you keep this as close to the spine of your signature as possible. I ended up getting kind of off with mine, and I think that contributes to the problem I have later with my signatures looking pretty crooked. So make sure that you get these right on the spine if you can. So here's kind of a close-up showing that I was a little bit too far to the left. You want it to really be right on that fold. So keep that in mind when you're making your perforations in your signatures. All right, so once that's done, we can go ahead and remove our little template piece, and we can start to secure it to the journal. So we're going to grab one of our brads, and flipping our journal over to the cover, we want to add one right through the first hole here at the top, and then finding the hole in the sort of top of our signature here, we're going to just pierce it right onto the brad like this. All right, and then we're going to flatten the prongs. Make sure that they're going vertically and not horizontally, otherwise you won't be able to close your signature. All right, and you can see I've only got a little bit of prong left. It's enough to work with, but with a thick cover and thick signatures, you're not going to want any brads that are shorter than these ones. So keep that in mind. Longer brads would work better for this. And then we're going to continue to do that, just adding it to the bottom this time. Same process here, kind of piercing through our signature like this, and then flatten out the prongs of the brad. And we have links to our brads in our Amazon shop, but you can also pick them up at like office supply stores. They're usually like in office supply sections of, you know, places like Walmart or Staples or whatever. So pretty common and easy to find. All right, and those are going to hold our signatures in place. So usually I like to go through and kind of fold each of my pages over and kind of give them a gentle crease here so that they're not so stiff. And then you can kind of see here where I got sort of off because of how I folded my pages and because of the holes not being directly on the spine. So some of these pages are pretty crooked. I apologize to whoever gets this journal. I hope that you can still enjoy it even with some of these pages being a little bit crooked here, but I really wanted to show everyone kind of my mistake and not just hide it so that you can avoid making it yourself. So yeah, take your time, get things straight. But otherwise you can see that is our signature added into the journal here. So we're going to continue that process over and over with each of our signatures, just moving on to the next set of holes in the spine here, and just add it until all 4 of our signatures are attached. And then when I was done with that, I did go in and add some lace to kind of hide the cardboard showing where the spine was. And you can do that between the signatures as well if you want to. But I decided instead of using lace, I'm going to use some of these scrap papers that I have. These are from, again, the freebie that we're giving away, but they got kind of chewed up in the printer, so I didn't want to put them in the signatures, but they're going to work really well for this process here. So what I did was I cut some strips. You want them to be fairly wide, probably like 4 or 5 inches. And then we're going to tear the edges to give them a little bit of texture. And I decided to go with a like a distress ink to help bring out those edges a little bit more, make them stand out a little bit. And then we're going to be gluing this down right into the journal between those signatures. So I'm going to take this piece and fold it in half and then glue it in. Now it's important that if you're doing this, that you print it on both sides of this piece of paper, because you will be able to see it through the lace spine. So keep that in mind. And then also remember that the brad binding method is nice because it lets you take your signatures in and out of your journal or add more pages in. But if you do this method to kind of hide the spine, you won't be able to take your signatures out of the journal because they are connected. Well, I guess you could take it if you took out both signatures together. You'd have to take out like all 4, I think. So if you want to do that, I guess you can, but yeah, you probably wouldn't. So if you do this method, it's not as easy to add papers in and out of your signature. So just keep that in mind. All right, and you can see here, you can see those little signature bindings here. So that's why we print on the front and back. All right, so there are our signatures in their glory attached to the cover here, added into our journal. So now we can really kind of go in and do a little bit of extra decorating if you want to. So I decided that at this point I was going to add in a couple of envelopes to my signatures. Again, this is completely optional. You don't have to do it, but I like the kind of contrast that it adds with its darker brown color. Again, we have these linked in our shop if you're interested, these brown envelopes that we get on Amazon. And I'm just gonna glue them into my papers here, just kind of fold them around the edge of a page and then glue down the flaps so that they're held in place. And this is a pretty easy way to add extra like ephemera storage to a journal, but also keep writing space available. So I wanted to try to do that for whoever wins this journal. So I'll be adding a couple of envelopes in here, just gluing them in. And then I did a little bit of light decorating with some ribbon glued along the edge of some of these envelopes. And again, that's just kind of adding layers and texture and giving the journal more character. So it's optional, but if you have the time and the supplies to do it, I think it adds just a little something to the journal overall and makes things look nice and varied. All right, so that is my quick little tutorial on how to create some signatures for your Keepsakes journal using our freebie papers and pages. Again, all of these papers are free to download. Just check the link down in the description box and they're yours to have. Don't forget to also like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the other videos that are going to be coming out this week. Any notifications, like in our community tab, we're going to be announcing the sales to remind you guys that we are having sales every day this week. So you don't want to miss out on any of those. So again, like and subscribe. We'll also be having videos every day this week with freebies available, and don't forget to come back on Sunday to see if you are one of the winners of the add-on kit and of this Keepsakes journal. I am going to be decorating this journal a little bit more throughout the week, and then I'll do a full decorating off camera and kind of flip through it on Sunday so you can see exactly what you might be winning. But otherwise, yeah, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in tomorrow's tutorial. Bye!